the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award to honor his parents. And I didn't ask Jim for his speech at that time, so I'm going to share with you what I remember from it. I don't remember Jim talking about his dad, Mr. Moroney, and Mr. Moroney's success running a tremendous newspaper, and frankly, greater success in bringing two sons to graduation through Cistercian, Jim and Mike. But I do remember Jim talking about his mother, Lynn. Lynn, who passed away November 2010, a year ago. Not this past November, but the year before that. And he talked about his mother, Lynn Moroney, as a woman who was very generous, never met a stranger, welcoming. And all of you who knew Jim, so who were in the mid-70s, who grew up at that time, knew that that meant quite practically that you could hang out at the Moroney's house, even if the parents weren't there. I hope the young guys don't hear that. But Jim went on, and he talked about his mother as a woman who would pick up and help those who were most needy. And I remember very vividly that he talked about Lynn picking up people from the streets, taking them to the store, getting them food, even though this man, Jim described, had not had the opportunity for a shower in weeks, and it was noticeable. It was that kind of generosity and ability to look a person who is suffering in the face and not avert the eyes and say, how can I help? That characterized Lynn Moroney, and I think that characterizes Tom Lewis. I know that as we celebrate this evening, Mr. and Mrs. Moroney and Mr. and Mrs. Lewis are with us, very proudly looking down on Tom. I tried to please Jim Hartnett Jr., and Tom will remember Jim Hartnett Jr., by coming up with an appropriate roast for Tom. Jim Hartnett Jr. is here because he likes to laugh a lot. And we've had some really funny evenings that frankly were inappropriate for high school students. And so Andy and Carolyn and Jack, wherever Jack is, Jack's only a 9th grader. We've cleaned it up a little bit tonight. I tried to find some dirt on Tom that could be presented tonight. And I talked to our classmates, Tom, guys who could not come in tonight, guys who said they loved you, but they could not make it in. And inevitably, these guys said, you know what I remember first about Tom? Is his dad. His dad from whom... That's Tom's brother saying, oh my God. So Tom's dad from whom Tom must have learned hard work, honesty. Those are the traits of Tom. Hard work and honesty. You talk to his classmates, you talk to us. And we see in Tom a man who I admire and I hold up as a model for myself as a man of integrity and honesty, as a man of hard work, as a man who, indeed, I'm not a great athlete, but the athletes in my class, they said, Mr. Lewis, and then they said, Tom, the athlete. And then one guy who asked not to be named said, Tom, Mr. Teflon, because we knew he must have been misbehaving, but we never caught him. I'm still trying to please Jim Hartnett with some roast, and the classmates didn't provide it. They said he learned honesty, hard work from his dad. They said we never caught him misbehaving. And so I took the suggestion of Andy Kistler, who accompanied Tom to Africa last summer. Andy Wright, 18-year-old kid, says, just Google him. There's bound to be some trash on the internet. So I Googled Tom. And what I found, I think, was better than any roast. This is the Tom Lewis I know, and frankly, the Tom Lewis I love. I Googled Tom Lewis, and you can do the same, and I found an article on Tom, and I'm going to share it with you. Written by a Memphis reporter. Sorry, Jim, not morning news. Written by Memphis reporter Joe Bird, just this past August. The title was Memphis Panhandler Attracts Big-Hearted Givers. Said, This is where Tom's donations to the phone-a-thon come from. He's out panhandling for us. Then I read the article, and I realized it captures why Tom so deserves the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award. And it also points out how much of a team Tom and Kathy are. The article. Do you look at the beggars on Memphis street corners, or do you avert your eyes? Yeah, sure, some are crackheads trying to hustle for the next rock, or alcoholics trying to rustle up some cash for the 10,000th trip to oblivion. But others are people that just need a break. Well, last week, Tom Lewis took a look at a panhandler working the concrete median at busy Park Avenue and Ridgeway while driving by. Tom kept on driving. The big bearded bear of a man says he made it about a mile before the heart-tugging condition of the pauper turned him around. His walk had an unusual gait, and he had a deformity, Lewis said, so I had to go back and learn this man's story. The panhandler, Carl Brown Jr., had a motorcycle accident after graduating from a Memphis high school in 2003. He wasn't wearing a helmet. The crash bashed in Carl's head. The resulting damage is profound. A portion of his frontal lobe is missing. If you look from a certain angle, you can see where Carl's head met the curb. Carl eventually moved in with his mother, but she was unable to care for him. So she dropped him off at downtown Memphis Union Mission in 2004. Carl stayed a few months and eventually began living under a bridge on Madison Avenue. He's been there for months, surfacing by day to beg for enough money to eat. Well, intrigued by Carl's story, Tom Lewis went and bought lunch. As the pair dined while perched on the back of Lewis's pickup, parked on the concrete median on Ridgeway near Park Avenue, Tom asked Carl what he wanted to do. I want to find my father in Seattle and go home. Carl's parents are divorced. His mother lives in Memphis and his father resides in Washington State. Even if they came up with the money for a plane ticket to Seattle, Tom reminded Carl that Carl couldn't board an airplane without a photo ID. Still skeptical, Tom pressed Carl for his father's phone number. Carl said he thought his grandmother in South Memphis would have his dad's number. He thought his photo ID was tucked away in a family Bible. Carl's a man of faith. God's my best friend. I know I'm going to be okay, Tom said Carl told him during their lunch on the back of that pickup. Tom put Carl in his truck, drove to meet Carl's grandparents in South Memphis. The beggar's story panned out. Tom called Carl's father, and he confirmed the chronicle of unfortunate events of Carl's younger life. Tom then brought Carl home to meet his wife, Kathy Schanzer, the noted ophthalmologist. The good doctor refused to allow Carl to return to the streets. The once homeless man stayed with the couple who treated Carl to a Mississippi River ride on their boat and then carried him to a corporate suite party at AutoZone Park for the Redbirds game on Saturday night, August 13th. The next morning, the trio appeared at St. Patrick's Church for Mass. When the pastor welcomed first-time visitors and offered each an opportunity for introduction, Tom told the congregation the abbreviated version of Carl's story. Then Tom announced that in order to help fly Carl to Seattle, he'd be panhandling with his new friend on Monday at Park and Ridgeway. Instantly, Carl was overcome with emotion. He used his t-shirt to dab a gush of tears rolling down his face. "These people are so good," Carl said. Some parishioners embraced Carl. Father Tim Sullivan, St. Patrick's pastor, decided to collect a second offering for Carl's journey home. The faithful donated $338. Tom took Carl back to his East Memphis home, and Tom made signs that read, "Send Carl to Seattle." Tom started sending email messages to his friends announcing that he, Tom, would be panhandling alongside Carl on Monday, August 14th, at Park and Ridgeway. They held the signs aloft on Monday as Kathy and Tom's friends and perfect strangers responded to the appeal. In just 3 hours, they had collected $1,665. Tom and Kathy bought a plane ticket, and on Tuesday morning, August 16th, they drove Carl to Memphis International Airport with a check for a grand total now of $2,528.20 to begin his new life. His father said he'd open an account for the money, and he would take care of his son. "I don't feel like what I did was complicated at all," Tom said. "It wasn't hard to connect the dots. There's got to be a story with each of these guys." Tom Lewis said in reference to those who call the streets, Tom Lewis said that in reference to those who call the streets home. Tom Lewis and Dr. Kathy Shancer proved that genuine compassion, united with an investment of a little time and effort, can change a life in dramatic ways. We don't know exactly what will happen to Carl Brown Jr., but the generous spirit that sent Carl's life on a new trajectory shows what can happen when a passing stranger doesn't avert their eyes and takes a look at the less fortunate in our midst. Tom and Kathy have, of course, done many, many things for Cistercian. But we must point to the fact that not only are they doing these things, but they are preparing the way for others to follow their example. And they have reached out to offer those opportunities to our Cistercian community. Tom has given back, Kathy has given back to Cistercian in ways beyond counting. He and Kathy, brave, have come to talk to Father Rock's senior theology class more than once, right? Most of us would quit after one time, but they have the bravery to keep on coming back. And they describe their love for one another, their marriage, and their family. They did that most recently just yesterday, Friday. 5 years ago, Tom and Kathy invited Juan Muldoon, a Cistercian senior, to join them in their eye clinic in Sarabu, Sierra Leone. I appreciate Tom, and I love Tom and Kathy for many reasons, but they asked me before they asked Juan. I really appreciated that. This was during school, and they were going to take him out for 3 weeks. Juan did not hesitate to say yes. Clint Murkison followed. And then on another trip, Clint's sister Elise and their parents went to Sarabu. And then last year, teaching others to do what he and Kathy are doing. Tom and Kathy established a scholarship so that each year, a Cistercian junior or a Cistercian sophomore can be selected to take part in the mission trip to Sarabu, Sierra Leone, and participate in their medical missionary work. Andy Kistler was the first Cistercian student selected to benefit from that scholarship. And we're about to begin the process for that scholarship for this summer, and we'll begin that process next week. Carolyn Chadwick, now a senior, she's not at Cistercian, now a senior at Ursuline, whose little brother is at Cistercian, also took place in that trip to Sierra Leone last summer. I now know why Andy was so happy to go along. From all of Tom's and Kathy's involvement at Cistercian, one theme emerges. They put into effect a vibrant, lively Catholic faith, running a business ethically, adopting and raising 7 children, returning to Cistercian to teach upper school students about marriage and family life, inviting Cistercian students to give their talents to help Kathy. Story, I don't know if Tom's going to tell this, but I'm going to steal the story. Kathy is the doctor. Kathy is the one who helps people. They're in Sarabu. Kathy slaves. Tom was saying, and Kathy was saying, they don't finish their surgeries until like 12 o'clock at night.
Sometimes.
Tom's at home sleeping. Kathy's working. And so the villagers say, thank you, Mr. Tom. Thank you, Mr. Tom. That is slowly changing. The inscription on the plaque reads, the 2012 Jim and Lynn Moroney Award presented to Tom Lewis, 73. This award is given annually to one alumnus whose spiritual commitment to Cistercian is very much aflame and whose dedicated work on behalf of the Cistercian family enkindles our hope for the future. Tom's efforts, like the 3 buildings represented on the plaque, stand as constant reminders of the value of the contributions of all of our Cistercian alumni. Tom is a dear, dear friend, and I am very, very proud to offer him this evening the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award. Congratulations, Tom.